You're listening to Sarah Hagan Backstage, with interviews and insights from years inside the music industry. Join Sarah as she talks with masters of their crafts, finding out what makes them tick, both inside and outside of the music business.
Welcome to Sarah Hagan Backstage. My guest today, Stanley Randolph, is the drummer for Stevie Wonder, and he is an incredible producer as well. He has played and toured with many other top acts, and he's working on his own projects now too. We talk about all of these things, and he gives some great advice and words of wisdom. So come along with me as I catch up with Stanley Randolph. Stanley, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. If you had an imaginary audience.
Yay, woo! Clapping.
Right.
It's so great to see you. It's been an awful long time.
Yeah, it's been a minute, man. It's been years.
It's been years.
Man, the pandemic and everything that went by, it's been some time for sure.
Man, the last time I saw you was in Boston at a New Kids on the Block show.
At the Garden?
At the Garden. Yeah, big show.
Yep.
So
I don't even know who we were touring with, but that's their hometown, so you know they're gonna do. Oh, actually, we usually do the Garden, or we do Fenway.
Yes. Well,
was it Fenway? Was it Fenway?
Was it Fenway? Maybe it was Fenway. I can't
It
remember.
was.
Yo,
You
you're
came
right.
to
It was.
Fenway. Because you brought me a whole bunch of new cymbals for that show, and it rained.
And it rained, which is funny because the two times I saw you play with New Kids on the Block at Fenway Park, it rained both times.
It rained both times. Yep. I
right.
Remember that. Mm-hmm.
And the first time was, I think, maybe like one of the first times we met, and it was way back. Mm-hmm. And you were touring with New Kids on the Block, and of course, like, I'm a child of the 80s, so I was like prime age, being in Boston, being like 10 years old when the New Kids on the Block craziness started. And so for me, I was like reliving my childhood by coming to the show. And so, like, a little bit starstruck, but trying not to be. And and it was back in the day when, like, we used to actually take photos with cameras, right? Like digital cameras. Mm-hmm. And so you were like on a platform on the stage, like a raised kind of platform. And I just remember there's actually a picture, I'll try to find it, but it's a picture of me taking a picture of you, and you are on your platform during sound check. It's raining. The stage is super slick. And I'm like precariously like hanging out over, like trying to take pictures of you. And I was just like, one of us is going to fall off this thing.
Oh man. I remember both those shows, because one of them I had dreads, and then the other one I didn't. Yeah, that's around the time I cut my dreads off too.
Yeah, you had a whole different look.
I had a whole nother vibe.
Yeah, a whole nother life. And like, what a cool gig though. Like, Boston band, Fenway Park, super cool. And then the last time I saw you, right, it was that tour where like Paula Abdul was opening, and all I can remember is I can remember thinking like how much of a trooper she was, because it's pouring rain and she's like in full hair and makeup with these gorgeous outfits, and she's out there like dancing and singing, and it's raining and thundering, and amazing.
I remember that.
Right?
The New Kids totally took advantage of that setting for sure. The whole epic moment. The whole show was like an epic moment.
It was epic. And the energy too, like that always fascinated me too, that amount of energy. And then Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say they got some of the greatest fans I know.
I mean, really, right? I mean, the fans are loyal and so excited. I know, like whenever they would come to town, it would be like all my girlfriends, like a frenzy to get tickets and all that stuff. But it was really nice because, through you, you brought Elijah Wahlberg to the Zildjian family, and, we got to know each other. And then that episode of Wahlburgers happened, which was super fun. in 2016. So there are a lot of fun things that happened out of that. For sure.
Yeah, it was cool. It was great. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Sure.
But let's go back in time a little bit, because I want to hear about you. I don't know a lot. I mean, we've been friends forever, but I don't know a ton about like you growing up in Tennessee. And I know. So were you in Nashville or Memphis or both? I can't remember.
I was in Memphis majority of the time. I didn't really live in Nashville, but traveled there a lot, definitely for work. But mainly lived in Memphis for sure.
That's amazing. And did growing up in Memphis, did that, you know, what kind of music were you listening to? Did that kind of like shape your musical style?
Memphis is a good start. It's a good stomping ground. It's very disciplined. A lot of the music I grew up on, of course, was on the church scene. I definitely started in church, like most drummers do. And also, a lot of the music, Memphis is very old school. Even still to this day, like they play records and perform records in all the clubs and bars from the 70s, 80s. Because, you know, you had Al Green, you had Isaac Hayes, even some of the members from Earth, Wind, and Fire came from Memphis. You had a lot. BB King, you know, he's the #1 blues guy. You had a lot of talent and a lot of soulful music and R&B and, you know, blues. All that came out of Memphis for sure. So I grew up on a lot of that stuff, which was actually, you know, it works for who I am now as a drummer because, you know, when I was younger, I used to kind of make fun of some of those songs and stuff like that. I was like, oh man, you know, I used to joke around and play like how some of the drummers used to play back in the 70s and 80s. But now, you know, I'm on a gig where I kind of have to play that vibe anyway. So it worked out.
That's awesome. It's kind of full circle for you.
Full circle, yeah, definitely.
That's so great. So you started like playing drums on the church scene and all of that.
Yeah.
And was that like, did you just gravitate toward the drums or?
Well, yeah, actually, because, you know, for a long time, neither side of my family was musical. I was the only child, the only one in the family that did anything music-wise. My mom would sing a little bit. She didn't sing that much. Of course, she sang in the choir, but yeah, I was really the only one who had a musical background in the family. And I think my mom told me what really drew me to the drums was it was the only thing that would keep me quiet in church. It was the only thing that would keep my attention because I was a little bad kid. I was trying to run around and play the whole time. But whenever there was a guy I looked up to as a kid, his name is Frank Black. He was the drummer of that church. And then anytime that he would start playing, I would go sit on the front row and I would just be like watching him in awe. And I couldn't wait till the service was over because he would always let me come up and sit on the drums and just bang on it and kind of, you know, it really just had my attention.
That's great.
How I got started. Yeah.
You had a lot of energy. You weren't a bad kid. You just had a lot of energy.
A lot of energy. I had a lot of energy.
A lot of energy. But you know what? You put it to good use, right? You put that behind what you do.
Definitely. I put it to great use. So it just, you know, it blows my mind. You know, over the years now, recently within the last 5, 6 years, I have a little bit more background on where like my musical talent, family-wise, kind of comes from, and it's more from my dad's side. I found out that me and Robert C. Wright Sputt.
Yeah.
We're related. We're cousins.
No way.
Yeah, on my dad's side. So my dad, you know, has a side of music I didn't know about. You know, so yeah. But that was cool to find out. So, you know, I kind of got, you know, figured that out. Just like, where does this whole vibe and this talent, you know, come from? Besides God, of course. But as far as the family, where does it come from? So that was cool to find out.
That's amazing. A lot of people, like, you know, they'll go into one of those DNA 23andMe or whatever it is and find out find out their heritage, and like you found
Right.
out your musical heritage. So that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, it was cool.
Super cool. And so you ended up, you're in Memphis, you're playing drums, you're playing in church, and how did you kind of like break out into the world of touring drums and all of that stuff? How did that work for you?
Well, it's I'll make the long story short. It's basically I started off with this band in Memphis. We called ourselves New Genesis. Um, Basically, me and some of the members, we've been knowing each other ever since elementary school. We all went to elementary school together. We went to middle school together a little bit. We kind of lost contact in high school. We all went to different high schools. But my senior year in high school, I changed schools, and we all ended up linking back up. So I'll never forget we were doing like jazz band for the high school, and we had a gig at the carnival, the fair, or the carnival, one of those. We had a gig with the school, and one of the companies that had a tent at the carnival, they enjoyed the music we were playing at the school. At the carnival. So they asked us to come back later that night to be the entertainment for their tent. So we all decided to do it. We grabbed some equipment, went to the tent later that night around 7, and we played till like 10 or 11 when the carnival closed. Um, and we were really just a bunch of homies doing the whole jazz band thing, and we decided to turn it into a band. So like the rest of my senior year and all of my college years, I played with this band in Genesis, and we made quite a name for ourselves in Tennessee, in Memphis, Tennessee, and other cities, in the southern area, southern district. So um, basically, we all played at some different churches, but sometimes we played at churches together.
Mm-hmm.
And once, well, actually, we also played we ended up being in the band for Isaac Hayes.
Oh, wow.
So Isaac Hayes, us playing for him, he brought us to LA, to California, to do a gig and to visit. So we kind of saw California a little bit. But what really did it was we was playing with this church, and this church came to visit California, to visit another church. So we had a few days out here to kind of like see the city, and I'll never forget like the first day we got here, we met Victor Wooten and Ricky Lawson and Jerry Brown all at this club in Santa Monica called Harvell's. And literally met them that night at the club, had a great time. The next day, Ricky Lawson picked us up in his Lexus truck and drove us around the whole city and showed us all of the dope little spots where a lot of celebrities and legendary musicians perform and hang out. And I remember we also got like some gigs just visiting LA. And we was like, oh man, we got some work uh, just coming out here. So once we went back home to Tennessee, we had done all the gigs that come through the city with different artists and everything. We felt like we had hit a peak. We hit a ceiling in the city, so we wanted more as musicians and as a band. So randomly, we took another trip. I remember it was just random. We were all just kicking it. We had this little friend house, college house we called it the Five. And we were all just hanging out at that house one morning, and we was like, bro, we just gotta go back to LA, man. It was just like, we met so many people. It was dope. We even got gigs, and so literally the next day, this was in October of 2006. The next day, we just rented a van and just drove nonstop. It took us like 26 hours. We all took shifts. We drove nonstop to get to LA.
Wow.
And we came and we just kicked it for like 2 weeks. Us and some other friends, some other homies, we all jumped in the van, came, kicked it for 2 weeks. Then we had to go back home to Memphis, of course. And once we got back home, we was like, you know what, yo, we gotta move. In order to like really get the gigs and get the type of work and the stuff that we're looking for is in LA. We gotta move. So January 2007, a few months later, January 5th, we up and left. the whole band, we all just left, moved to LA, yo, and began that whole journey of just like, everybody helping each other eat, feeding each other.
Oh,
Um, I remember we all had to stay in a hotel room. We all had to like bunk up in a hotel room, man, for like a month, maybe 2 months. We had to bunk up in a hotel
wow.
room for like 2 months, yeah, because we didn't find an apartment yet, and Memphis prices was different from LA prices, so we was still getting adjusted.
For sure.
Um, but once we came out here, yo, and we made sure that we was at every little gig or every little open mic, because you had Harvell's, you had BB King's and Universal City Walk, you had the main club that really got us a lot of work. This club called Cozy's, which was in Sherman Oaks off of Ventura. Um, we was at all these different spots. Cafe Cordial. We was at all these different spots literally every day, just showing people that we're in town, that we're a band, ready for work, and this and that. And so, a couple of months into it, I remember we ended up getting two gigs. We ended up getting Boys to Men. We did some tours and spot dates with Boys to Men, and we also did a bunch of dates and tours with this artist named Chrisette Michelle. She was up and coming at the time. She had a hit record with Jay Z. No, with Nas, not Jay Z. Nas. She had a
Hmm.
hit song with Nas on at the time. She was up and coming. We ended up working with her at BB King's and Universal City Walk. And she loved the way that we learned our music and how we were already a whole unit. So she took us as we were on the road, and we toured with her and Maxwell and Common and a bunch of different other artists. Um, and then from there, um, the name New Genesis was just going around the going around the city of LA, and we all just started getting all types of calls. Like, some of my friends was doing Jessica Simpson. They did the Jacksons. Um, they
Wow.
did Prince. And then, of course, I ended up with Stevie, and I even brought one of my other friends from that band. He was the guitar player in the band. I brought him on the gig with me with Stevie. His name is Kyle Bolden. And yeah, from there we just started getting a lot of work, and so New Genesis made a name of itself in LA.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I was going to ask you if you still played with any of the guys, and that's
Hmm.
great.
Yeah, definitely. We're all still very much in contact. Um, and we're all pretty much producers and stuff now. And we have a bunch of different other bands and artists that we produce and work for and play for.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah,
fantastic. And you mentioned when you first went to LA and um Ricky Lawson and I think you said Jerry
yeah,
Brown, right? And like it's amazing because making those connections and helping you, I'm sure that they help make connections for you and now you're in that position, right?
right, exactly, right, exactly. I definitely try every chance I get to put any young homie or any uh, inspiring musician that's coming up. I try to put them on. So give them advice, let them know the sacrifices and the risks that we took. Because we wanted it that bad, so like nothing stopped us from making those moves. And it put us, it set us all up in a great way. So a lot of young homies I talk to now, I know a lot of people are afraid to like make moves like that because you're basically moving to a whole area. And sometimes I know it can be scary when you're doing it by yourself. Luckily I was with a band, so we all
Hmm.
did it together. But I know some homies who wanna make their move, who wanna take their career to the next level, and making a move like that and being on your own in a whole other city, and LA is way more expensive than a lot of these uh, cities and states in America. So
Hmm.
I know it can be a little different. It can be a little scary, a little crazy. But I advise people to definitely take the risk and make the move. Wherever you want to go, it don't have to be LA only, but whatever you want to do, I would just take that risk, do it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where you hear the stories of people really making it because they
Hmm.
did take that risk and it's
Yeah,
not easy. And like you said, you lived in a hotel room and you helped each other stay fed and all of that
yeah,
stuff. But like,
yeah,
but you put the time and the effort into it. And again, the making connections part, attending every little gig you could, taking what you could.
yeah.
And you
Exactly.
worked hard for it, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Um, and it brings me to a quote. I just have to say, like, on your Instagram page, I love when you post these motivational quotes, and I always like them, but they mean a lot. One of the ones you recently posted was, do things you're a little not ready to do, right? That's how you
Exactly.
grow and break through.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example of it, right? Like, you just had to
Exactly.
do it. You had to
Totally.
take the opportunity.
Yeah, totally, man. It's there. It's there. I know people who dream about it and visualize it. It's just really just put it into action. So sometimes it can be a little scary, and I still live by that rule to this day. Because even just in my career, new levels and new opportunities that I'm coming across now. It's definitely in the producing world. I have to just live by that quote because I have to do things that I normally wouldn't necessarily do, and sometimes it doesn't have anything to do with being a drummer. So it's just like being ready and making that move. So because hey, it's okay to mess up and fail and everything. I like to fail because it teaches me what not to do the next time, or it teaches me what to do the next time to make it right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
It's
yeah,
all a lesson. There's a
it's
lesson in
all a
failure.
lesson, all a lesson, all a lesson.
Absolutely. And I definitely want to talk about Stevie, of course.
Yeah,
You have been playing with him for years now,
yeah.
which is amazing. And you do more. So you drum on the tours and on the gigs and everything, but you do more than that with him, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
um, man, Stevie, he lives and breathes and eats music. Literally, it's either music or his cell phone. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No, but yeah, he breathes and lives music all day long, man. So I've done a bunch of studio sessions with him. I've done a bunch of music with him. You know what I'm saying? I hope for one day that it comes out, or or he decides to do something with it. Um, but mainly, besides touring and doing gigs with him, I spend a lot of time with him in the studio, definitely working on songs, and it's an unbelievable song, unbelievable music that people will be blown away. If they heard this stuff. Hopefully, one day he releases some of it because it's magical stuff.
That's amazing. So is it like a Prince situation where there's like a vault of music kind of
Oh
waiting?
man, yes, I know. Ever since I started back in like 2009, 2010, around that time, I've been in sessions with him. After my first tour, we went on tour for 3 months in the States, and then we took a break for a month, and then we went on tour for 3 months out of the country. And literally, like 3 or 4 days after we got back from that tour out of the country, we was in the studio with them every day for a month.
Wow.
And this is, at his older studio in Wonderland. So like, yeah, all that music that we created back then, all the way up until this point now, he has a new studio, a new spot now, and it's really, really dope. And I spent a lot of time there over the pandemic because it's literally not far from my studio. It's like 5 minutes away from my studio, so it's nothing for me to just drive down there real quick and just kick it, hang out, or he'll hit me up and we'll vibe and create some stuff. So
That's
I've,
so
I've spent more time in the studio with him than we have done shows in the last 3 years.
wow. That's
Yeah,
incredible. And playing drums for a musician like that, where like you said, he eats and breathes and lives music, and he also plays many instruments. So like
yeah.
you're being a drummer in a band where he's recorded a lot of drums and he plays as well, has to be like a whole different experience.
It is, and I appreciate the experience because to even have that trust from him, because like he's a drummer himself.
Hmm.
He could easily play his own vibes if he wanted to. Sometime I would recommend it that he would do it because he is a vibe in himself. So, but
Hmm.
I appreciate it and I'm grateful and thankful that he trusts me to come in and put down my ideals as a drummer, and sometimes more than just a drummer, as a producer. You know what I'm saying? To give, because I play more than one instrument as well. So sometimes to give my ideas and he vibes with it, he goes along with it. it's a dream come true.
It's so great. That's so
Yeah.
great. You know, people ask, what is your favorite concert that you ever attended? I get that question quite a bit. And
Man.
I always, I mean, I have a lot of concerts that I love. I love music, right? So
Yeah.
I love any live music. I have to just
Hmm.
preface it by saying that. And there are some concerts that have stood out to me as being moments where I was just blown away for one reason or another. But you came to Great Woods in Massachusetts
Okay.
years back with Stevie and Fausto
Yeah.
on percussion, and I came to see you guys and bring you some sticks and cymbals or whatever
Mhm.
hang, and we had a great hang before the show, and Stevie came out and took pictures with everyone. I still have that
Mhm.
photo, which was such a great memory. And then the show was incredible. What musician wise and just everything about it, it was so amazing. And
Yeah.
then after the show backstage, and I've told this story a few times because it was so moving and emotional, but there was a young boy backstage after the show, and I don't know if you remember this, but he was I'm never sure. He was deaf, I think, and blind.
Okay.
Um and he didn't speak, but he
Mhm.
played piano.
Oh
And
wow. Okay.
so he was playing piano and humming. And his parents were saying how like he feels the music and the vibrations, and that's how
Mhm.
he knows what to play. So he was playing Isn't She Lovely, and he was humming the words because he doesn't speak. And Stevie came out and started playing with him. And
Wow.
we were just, everyone was crying. Like it was just a backstage full of people bawling,
Wow.
because it was
Wow. That was at
like,
the meet and greet.
it was, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So
Mhm.
I mean, I'll never forget that moment. It was really, really like life-changing just to see this young boy, like how music and this music in particular had given him hope. And his parents were talking a bit about his
Man.
love of the music. And then to see Stevie come out and play with him, and I was just like, I'll never ever forget that moment. It was probably like in, I don't even know, 2008, maybe 9. I don't know, but
Well,
it was
probably was around the time. Yeah, it had to be around that time because I had just got the gig, and that's. I know. I remember you coming to that show because I was very also fairly new to the Zildjian family at that time too. So
yeah.
it definitely had to be around that time for sure. That's crazy though. I didn't even get a chance to see that kid. Man, I didn't. Yeah, because after the show, sometimes we would just go to the band room and decompress
Yes.
because his shows his shows were so lengthy, and it was so much material and so much vibe and so much stuff happening because he had like 3.5 hour shows.
Yeah.
That's an amazing thing in itself to do 3.5 hours worth of music and every song is almost a hit. That's that's a lot. That's amazing.
It
So
really
yeah,
is.
I didn't get a chance to see the little kid though, but
Yeah.
I do remember a kid that was blind definitely coming and playing piano. I do remember that though
Hmm.
for sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that I think you were back in like one of the rooms.
yeah.
But like I can't even imagine. Like let's talk for a minute about the 3-hour shows. And I know you guys had like epic rehearsals too, because is
Actually, no.
oh no, okay.
That's what everybody thinks, man. This gig, and that's one of the reasons I love it. It's so free. It's such a free gig, it's really like you have to have the respect for the music yourself. Stevie kind of leaves it open for you to really like, take it upon yourself to learn his material. Of course, if it's something that he really wants to hear played right, he'll tell you the right part. But for the most part, he kind of leaves it open, and everybody on that stage just has that type of respect for him to be like, let me go do my own homework and play this stuff right. Um,
That's
so
amazing.
we don't, I can really count. I can really count on two hands out of all these years the times we've actually had rehearsal. So
Really?
like, yeah, I'm dead serious. It's
Oh
literally
my
we don't,
goodness.
because even when I first got the gig, we went straight to tour. There was no rehearsal. We went straight to tour. it was really like, you know, learn as much music as you can, and you know, he would do a little rehearsing maybe in sound check, but even sound check was like a studio session. He was writing new songs and doing other stuff in sound check, you know, because it was like, know my music, listen to my music, learn it, you know. We go on stage, we're gonna perform it,
I love
you know.
that.
So like, yeah, we didn't rehearse a lot at all, which is I think that's what makes it even that much better because every show is not really the same. You know, we might start the show with the same song, and we'll end the show with the same song, but everything in between, the rest of the two and no, or the rest of the 3 hours and 20 minutes, it's all just like whatever he pulls out of his hat.
Wow.
You
So
know
you
what
just
I'm
have to
saying?
be
It's
ready
all
for anything, basically.
ready for anything, all freestyle,
I love it.
all freestyle.
So great. And I also love the fact that, Stevie's such a fixture at events like NAMM, like you just,
Yeah,
and like you said, he loves music, and it kind of
yeah.
like humanizes someone like him who is a superstar. He's a musical superstar, but like I remember him coming to the Zildjian booth and wanting to hear what was new, right? Like what
Mhm,
new cymbals do you guys have? And he wants to hit
mhm,
them and hear them. And
mhm.
I remember there was a drum kit on the booth once that he played, and he was like, I want these drums. I want this exact kit because I really like this. And I don't remember what it was, but I do remember that because it was like such a significant moment where he was like,
Yeah.
these ones, right?
And he probably definitely still has
It's
that
great.
kid. If you guys gave it to him, he definitely still has it for sure.
Right? I mean,
And
we
def-
must have, because I feel like if Stevie Wonder says, I want this kit, then you send it to Stevie Wonder.
right,
Right?
definitely.
So funny. Um, yeah, and I so you have this presence about you, and I love, again, your social media stuff. I have to just point out, if anyone's not following you on Instagram, what tell us your Instagram handle.
It's Stanley R Randolph. Yeah, Stanley R Randolph on Instagram. My middle initial R.
Okay,
Stanley R
so
Randolph. Yeah,
people need to go and follow you because you just post great clips, and again, the inspirational quotes are fantastic.
for sure.
One of them, lately, another one was learn to love the sound of your feet walking away from things that are not meant for you.
Yeah,
And I was like,
right.
yeah. Yes.
But what's crazy is,
Um,
man, a lot of these quotes I've been getting that come to me, I get them from watching movies, or or I might be talking to some homies or some just people I meet. You know, people I meet. If they say something inspiring to me, I'll put it in my phone in my notes right then and there, and I'll be like, man, thank you. You just gave me some wisdom. Like I'm gonna put that up
right?
on my page. You know,
You want to
and
share it.
yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Because I want everybody else to feel about it how I feel about it. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna touch somebody. So definitely. But yeah,
Absolutely.
I remember. I can't remember what movie it was, but I definitely remember putting up that quote. It was definitely from a movie. I forgot what it was though.
It's a great one. I was like, yeah, that has to resonate with everyone. Everyone has found themselves in a situation where you're just like, walk away, right? Like,
Yeah, walk away,
just
right? Walk
and
away.
so I just thought that was fantastic, because I think there's something about like maturity and time and experience that lets you know when the right time is to walk away from something that's not right.
Definitely, definitely.
Right.
I've definitely learned that lesson big time as I'm entering my 40s. I turned 40 this year, which is
Yay.
crazy. Just crazy to me.
40s are
Can't
great.
believe it. No, I know 40s are definitely great. I can't remember who said it. It might have been Diddy or Jay Z or somebody I said, but they was like, yo, you actually do your best, and you make the most money and you have the most success in your 40s because at this point in life you done figure it out. You done made a whole bunch of mistakes, so you really know how to do a lot of stuff right in your
Yes.
40s. So I'm excited for my 40s to get here for sure, but it just blows my mind every time. I'm like, wow, I'm here. I'm about to be 40. What in the world?
I know.
Four zero.
It is kind of amazing, but I agree with that assessment. It's a time where like, yeah, you've lived through enough to give you a good idea of what you should do and what you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
And then also like there's a comfort level, I think, with yourself at that point
Hmm.
because you're not so concerned about what everyone else thinks all the time. And
Exactly.
um, I have a friend who
Exactly.
turned 50 and he was like, when you turn 50, you don't give anything. You don't care. You don't care about
Right.
anything.
Definitely.
As far as what people think or all of that. But I just think it's a great time. So what do you think? What is your plan for your 40s? What do you think will happen? What are you predicting?
Man, well, I'm heavily more in production world. Like I said, I gave a lot of my other gigs like Christina Aguilera and Tony Braxton, even new kids. They're not really touring with a band as much right now, but I do all their work, a lot of their work for live shows in the studio with them and their other engineer Crunchy. I work with them in the studio for their live shows. So a lot of other gigs I gave them away to my homies and friends because I wanted to be more involved in the producer world, and I wanted to be here for the opportunities. Because actually, I got signed to Sony at a young age as a producer,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't really fully experience the opportunity or enjoy it because I was on tour. I was
Right.
touring so much, so they would hit me up to be like, "Yo, we want you to go in the studio with Two Chains." I'm like, "Oh man, I'm in Germany. I'm on
Right.
tour in Germany, but I get back in like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. Can we set it up then?" And they'll be like, "Okay, yeah, we'll circle back." And when I would get back in town, man, it was like that opportunity that was right there in that moment had just kind of passed by. So me being a producer, just being more on that journey of my life, I wanted to be more in the city. So I gave a lot of the touring gigs I was doing, I gave them away to homies and I let them do it because they need those experiences as well. I'd have been all over the world probably like 8 times, you know what I'm saying? I'm on my fourth or fifth passport. Um, so like, I wanted them to get the experience and let their dreams come true. And I'm following this whole other dream as being a producer and bringing up artists and creating my own music. And it feels better also too to make your own music when you tour the world doing your own music as well. So that's a
Yeah.
whole new experience that I'm enjoying. So I think in my 40s is going to be more of that, and it's going to be more of a success. I got a bunch of different groups and artists I'm producing that I put together, and they're all being successful in their own way, in their own route, their own pace. So I'm enjoying all of that, and I'm enjoying all of that stuff. So it's gonna be more of that in the 40s, and one of my big goals is I'm gonna win a Grammy for sure with one of these artists, if not all of them.
Yeah.
So that's
I fu-
definitely a big goal in my 40s is to win a Grammy for sure.
I fully believe that, Stanley. 100%. It's going to
Big
happen.
time. Thank
Yeah.
you.
That's exciting though. I'm just to like watch your evolution over the years has been really, really great. And I can't wait to see what happens in your future.
Yeah,
Um,
it's gonna be dope. It's gonna be dope.
yeah, for sure. And also watching your style evolve. I have to mention that the style, because you're always so stylish. And, you know, when, when
Look,
I
I got
think
red hair right now. You
you
know what
got
I'm saying?
red hair, yes, yes, exactly.
I'm
When
on
I
a whole
think of
nother.
you, I think of red, for
Hey,
sure.
that's my favorite color.
Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
red's my favorite color.
Love the hair. And then you used to wear a really, really specific hat back in the day,
Oh,
right?
yeah. I went through the whole hat phase,
The hat
and
fade.
I kind of chilled out on the hats because man, they kept getting stolen, and
Oh
those hats were not cheap. Those hats were like $500-$600 each, yo. And I remember like I would wear them to gigs, and because I would sweat, I would leave the hat on my drums. Man, if we're taking a break in between, sets, I would go use the bathroom or go outside, have a smoke, get some air, and I would come back, man, and my hat would be gone.
that's
So I
not
was like, oh
good.
my God. Yeah. So I have two of them left now, and I just choose when to wear them, or I wear them if I'm not going to like play. If I'm going to an event just to hang out, then I'll wear it then so that way I don't have to take it off and put it down.
Hmm.
Because I literally went through, I had 6 of them stolen.
Oh my gosh. And you
So I
know
was
what?
like, I got to chill.
That is a very specific hat. So I feel like you could be walking down the street someday and like random person walks by with your hat on, you'd know.
Probably so, man. But I got it from this exclusive guy in Hollywood, off of Melrose, and he put me onto the hat, and I just made it a whole part of my vibe, and started, wearing it. But now I chill out with it. I'm more with the hair colors and other stuff now. So I'm just
I love it.
enjoying it all.
It's great. I love the red. You had green not too long ago, right? Too.
Yeah, I had green. I did the whole tiger stripes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My own little Dennis Rodman wave.
Right. But you can pull it off, though. It's great. It's
For
so
sure.
great.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And another thing I want to talk about too is you have a funk drums sample pack with Jam Card, right?
Yes. With
Nice.
Jam Card and Splice, which we're in the talks of doing another one, doing a new one. I'm even thinking about adding my brother Pastor Funk to the whole equation. To give him more than just funk drums. I want to give him, funk samples, funk sounds. Even probably bring some other musicians in on it with me to give him a whole spectrum of just like a whole funk vibe and what I'll be doing in the studio. So that's in the talks right now with Jam Card and Elmo. So hopefully that'll be happening soon. But yeah, and it's doing really well on Splice. I think I'm still number 2 within the Jam Card pack.
That's awesome.
So a lot of people, I was really surprised. I'm not gonna lie, because I love Splice. I use Splice, in a lot of stuff that I produce.
Mm-hmm.
But I was surprised when I did my own pack and it went up. I didn't even think that so many people would be checking it out. So I was like, whoa, I guess
That's
people
amazing.
love it. So let's give them more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do more for sure. I love the idea of doing like other instruments too. That's great. And who better to do it, right?
For sure.
So I don't want to let you go without asking for your advice for the next generation, because you do, like you said, you pull up others with you. You share gigs that you know that they'd be great for. You bring them on projects that you're doing, and you're so great about that. So some advice to, the younger crowd out there who's trying to make their way in this crazy industry.
One thing I would say is, and I know I've said this before, but I think it's cool how everybody like sheds and practice together. But I think it's even cooler when you do it alone, because you figure out your own sound and your own vibe when you're by yourself. Because it's easy to practice and share with other people and get ideas, and what I'm saying. But I think it was Dennis Chambers that said years ago, the drummers in the world would be so much better and so much more better if they just sat alone and created their own vibe and their own sound and had their own ideas and made that happen, and then bring it out and show it to the world. And I really definitely agree with that, because I remember when I was a kid, when I did have a drum room, I had a few homies I would share with every now and then, but I wasn't one of those guys that would really pull up to the shed. I was the guy that would be like, I'm gonna go to my room and tune my drums a different way, or set it up a different way, or play with different loops, and create. At the time I had an MPC, so I would make my own different little loops and stuff like that, and try to create my own sound. So that way, when people would hear me play, or you can hear me on a record, or you can hear me from afar and be like, "That's Stanley Randolph. I know that sound anywhere." So that has stayed with me even still to this day. Like, I don't really shed with a lot of homies. And I know they probably all be like, "Oh man, you're weird," whatever. But it helped me. I really stuck with that when Dennis Chambers said that. It really it stuck with me, and I think it's been a part of me becoming who I am even to this day. Like, even though all the gigs I do my research, and I take little pieces here and there, and I just add it to my vocabulary, and I choose to put it out there to the world where it sounds like me. So that way, if anybody else plays, they'd be like, "Oh man, you sound like Stanley Randolph. You sound like Stanley Randolph."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're never going to hear that Stanley Randolph sounds like this person. It's like, no.
Right.
That's Stanley Randolph. Yeah. So
That's
that's the
really
advice I would give the new generation. You know what I'm saying? Take some time to yourself and perfect yourself and your sound, and take the risk, man. Tune that drum different, set that drum up different. You know what I'm saying? Play it different. And yeah, that's the
do
advice I
you,
would give to you.
yeah, do your own thing, go your own way, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And I think that's really, really great advice because you like there are drummers out there where you hear them on a recording and you're like, oh yeah, that's Steve
hmm
Gadd, right?
hmm
That's I don't know. Steve comes to mind, of course. That's
exactly,
Vinny or that's Dennis or that kind of thing. You do
exactly,
know.
exactly.
Um, and
And
so like,
I came up from that era. I came up around that era when those guys were the young teens coming up. You know what I'm saying? I would really love to ask Steve Gadd, you know, if he practiced with other drummers or if he shared it with other drummers. I really think he would say no. I really think he would be like, "Oh, I practiced by myself. I was in my own room and I
yeah,
decided to play these grooves. I created these grooves that made him Steve
yeah,
Gadd."
yeah, yeah. And you know who else too that comes to mind is Dave Weckl because he said
Of
that too. Like
course.
he was just like locked away by himself, like creating his own sound, and that's pretty
Yeah.
significant. I like
And
that.
I think that's also why he's a master engineer and mixer, because Dave Winkle mixes and engineers his own music. And his
Yes.
drums sound amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
his sound, and the time you hear it, you know that's Dave Winkle.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is a great goal. And I need to get Steve on this podcast and ask him that question. I'm going to do it.
Please let me know when he's on here. I'm gonna watch it.
I will. I'm going to do
Let
it.
me
We'll
know.
see. I'm going to reach out to him today and I'm going to say Stanley Randolph said.
Hey, for real, let me know. He is a master for sure. I seen him once, and
Yeah.
I seen him once with James. What's the artist's name?
James
James Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in Boston.
Yeah. Was it at Fenway?
No, it was in Boston at the Garden. This is when they were was it they had a tribute show or no a charity show. It was when that event, the Boston Bomber or something had happened.
Yes, the marathon. Yep.
Yeah, that the horrific event. But they had a show, and New Kids we left our tour and came to the Garden to perform for that event, and Steve Gadd was there with James Taylor, and I could barely speak to him because I was such an awe. I was really in fan mode, and just to see his setup and everything, like the simplest setup, but
Yeah.
it's Steve Gadd, man.
Yes. I
So
know.
like, yeah, but
I know.
I have more courage and stuff now. I would definitely ask him like, yo, bro, tell me, what did you do coming up? Like, what was
Yeah,
your
and
vibe? What was your
right, he would be happy. He'd be happy to talk about it with you because like, Steve is so humble and so
hmm
like giving, like he'd just be happy to be asked that question and
Yeah,
talk with you about it. And I say it often and I say it on this podcast all the time, but drummers are at the core so much like one another and
hmm
as far as sharing and being open and being humble with each other, and I love that so
yeah.
much.
That's awesome. That's dope.
It's so good. It's so good. Well, we are excited to follow you on the rest of your musical journey. I can't wait to see what you do in your 40s, Stanley, and you're going to win that Grammy or multiple.
Thank you, Sarah. You're gonna be there. You're gonna be there, Sarah. You're gonna see. I'm gonna shout you out.
Yeah.
In my speech, I'm gonna shout you out for sure.
Can't wait. Cannot wait. And in the meantime, everyone should follow you on Instagram. I'll put all the links and everything in the YouTube description and in the podcast show notes so everyone can follow. And I can't wait to see you again soon.
For sure. We'll see each other soon, definitely.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here, and you take care.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in today. Join us each Tuesday for new episodes of Sarah Hagan Backstage.